Gary, welcome to Hong Kong. Yes, you've been doing like an Asia tour, right?
That's
You've been
right.
to a couple of countries recently,
Yes, we
right?
were in South Korea, Japan, now Hong Kong.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you Gary Jones, the founder of the well-renowned equipment company Hammer Strength. So, Gary, tell me a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood, and the environment that you grew up in.
Well, I grew up in very unusual circumstances. I was actually raised in a zoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
My first playmate was an orangutan named Susia.
Oh, very nice.
And then we lived there. Eventually, we immigrated in 1965 to South Africa. From there, we moved to Rhodesia to be further out with the game. And then we were there during a conflict and actually ended up leaving Rhodesia as refugees and immigrating back to the United States. Well, we had to scrabble our way back across the globe to get back to America.
So what was your father doing at the time?
Well, he was very interested in weightlifting and bodybuilding.
Okay, he was himself a fitness enthusiast.
Fitness enthusiast. So that was kind of his hobby. And then while we were starting up, back to our previous business, which was importing exotic animals from around the world to the United States mostly, but Europe some, and we sold them to zoos a lot. That was our thing. So
it's a family business,
It's
right?
a family business.
Yes.
And then in the nights and weekends and holidays, we were designing the prototypes of what turned out to be Nautilus.
Nautilus, the well-renowned also equipment.
Yeah, the original fitness company.
Yes.
And then, so that course became very big. And when my dad retired, basically, and sold the business, the Brown family, which was our largest distributor at the time, came to me and wanted to start another company. So that was how Hammer Strength got started.
Okay, so basically you got all your inspiration from your father, Arthur Jones, right?
Yes.
And you decided to step on his footsteps, and you became you created the Hammer Strength.
Right.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit. What's the difference between Nautilus equipment that your father made and the Hammer Strength equipment that you've invented?
So Nautilus was primarily focused on isolating muscles. So, and I came to the conclusion and observation that people move in what I call full body coordinated complex motions. And so I would argue with my dad and throw something on the ground and say, okay, pick that up and just use one muscle.
Okay.
Which you can't do.
Yeah.
So we would get in big fights about that all the time. And, but to me, it was obvious. And then I got, even beyond that, all the machines, not just exercise machines, but going back that far in history, all the machines that interacted with humans treated humans as if they were robots, and they moved in straight lines perpendicular to the body.
Yeah.
But that's not the way that people naturally move.
Correct.
So I got interested in what I called three-dimensional motion. And that's what Hammer is all about, is motion.
Biomechanics.
Yes,
and
the biomechanics and stuff.
Yes.
So I was building the machines. At the same time, I was inventing, what's called three-dimensional ergonomics. And I got involved early in three-dimensional computer-aided design, and wrote the original software that automated 3D CAD.
But before we get into that detail, which is very interesting, I want to get someone from this gym, and I want you to maybe present them the motion of the So maybe we get someone from the audience.
Yes.
Right, and Gary will show a natural movement that Hammer Strength is doing. So you can come here.
Come on down.
What's your name?
Eddie.
Eddie. Very nice to meet you. I'm Alex. Yeah.
All right.
So maybe you come here.
Right here.
Yeah. And Gary's going to show you something very interesting about Hammer Strength.
But before Hammer, all tools, not just exercise machines, everything was perpendicular. So the machines that interacted with humans treated the humans as if they were robots, and we're not. And for example, the original handles of everything were held perpendicular to the previous joint, which actually puts pressure on the joint. They are also rotated for here, it's parallel to the ground. That puts stress on the joint. A natural position is approximately 7-degree angle here. Okay, also how we rotate it here and in this dimension. So I started, basically I'm the inventor of three-dimensional ergonomics. And so we designed the equipment so that you maintain a neutral alignment, which reduces stress on the joints, makes it more comfortable, and it helps prevent injuries and strengthens the whole joint. Nautilus machines were originally designed to isolate specific muscles, but it's obvious now in hindsight that we actually move in what I call coordinated, complex, full body motions. So that's what I was working on, at design equipment that moved the way people do, so it would be comfortable.
I see. And also, can you please remind me exactly how did you design the biomechanics and the movement of those hammer strength? You mentioned something about martial arts.
Right.
And I think that's a very interesting point. We are in Asia and there's a lot of martial arts here.
Right.
And martial arts emulates the natural movement.
Well,
so
it had to.
maybe,
If you think about it, martial arts came from a time in history, literally thousands of years ago,
Yes.
when there were no weapons of war.
Yeah.
So your weapon was your body. So they learned through necessity, okay, what the most powerful movements were and what was safest for the body.
Yes.
So once I came to that realization, I actually, the nearest local place to my factory was the Taekwondo studio. So I went there and studied Taekwondo, and then I basically digitized those motions. I created a three-dimensional human inside my computer, all right? I called him Reggie. So I then would teach those martial arts motions to Reggie, and then use that as a mold and build the machines around that. So for example, the incline press is actually from Taekwondo, the high block motion. Okay. And then the isolateral high row is that opposite motion. The motion they use to break boards in martial arts is our isolateral bench press.
I see.
And the opposite of that would be the isolateral rowing machine.
So once you worked for Nautilus for your dad, at what age, around what age you decided to go your own path and invent hammer strength and found hammer strength?
Well, after my dad retired and sold the business, our largest distributorship, which is the Brown family, the people that, one of the guys that's founded the National Football League, they approached me and wanted to start another company. And at the same time, I was inventing this concepts of natural motion, natural joint alignment. So the original plan was we were going to use the plate-loaded machines kind of as a starting point to train our workers and work out all the bugs in the factory. And then we built the first isolateral machines, and it was like, in America we call bingo. So we were on a roll after that. And just creating motion-based exercise machines. Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
Very nice to see you here.
And it's wonderful to see all the hammer strength equipment here at 24/7.